My name is Casey Nicholas, and this is my reflective statement for my compendium assessment for ETP401 Assignment 1. Prior to completing this compendium, I thought that I had an extensive knowledge of assessment and its role. I thought that I knew a lot about it and that I was quite ready to tackle this in the classroom setting. But after completing this assignment and doing such in-depth research, I realised that I had been wrong and I proved myself wrong, and there was much more for me to learn about assessment. Now my knowledge has grown greatly through this research, in terms of learning about other education systems and different externalised standard testing that I didn't actually know about before. I got to learn about the planning and the preparation that goes into assessment at a whole school level when looking at my placement school and the documents they use for assessment. This really helped me to get a grasp on the type of work teachers do for assessment and how to shape a whole school assessment culture. Looking at these aspects from a different perspective to my own, for example, external standardised testing, I got to see different things that I wouldn't have normally looked at because of my perception was blocking that view. When looking at my beliefs and values about assessment, there are three that really stand out to me. Assessment should be explicit to ensure that the learning is valid and reliable for its purpose. So validity can mean how well what is assessed corresponds with the behaviours or learning outcomes that are intended to be assessed, and that it comes under one of the principles for the Harlan reading. And for reliability, this is the accuracy of the results measured by the extent to which the assessment gives the same results if repeated. That was also in the Harlan reading under the principle. Another belief I have about assessment is that assessment needs to be differentiated to suit the needs of the learner. Assessment is not effective or inclusive when it is one size fits all. Students need to be given the best possible opportunity to do their best, and I believe that assessment should be equitable, not equal. Another principle that aligns with my beliefs is that assessment should enable and motivate students to show what they can do. In terms of being open with them and about their progress and giving them options to further their learning, to show what they can do. So this can be demonstrated by showing students their learning goals for that time, or by giving them constant feedback about how they're progressing and what they can do to get to that next step. I believe that students should also get opportunities to self-assess and also assess their peers, so it isn't only the teacher facilitating assessment all the time. So going through this, my key influences have been my ever-growing knowledge I've been attaining at university through my classes, assignments and readings. The experiences I get in placement also truly shape my beliefs and values as I get to see firsthand and put into practice myself different assessment strategies. So having these strong beliefs now about assessment can drive me into implementing new strategies of assessment and exploring new ways and different students may like being assessed or what might best suit their needs. Having this belief of valid and reliable assessment will help me to explicitly plan procedures of assessment to ensure this is so. In Standard 5.2 of the AITS standards, it is to make consistent and comparable judgments. So following this will allow me to make sure assessment is valid and reliable through moderation, but also while assessing students I can make considerable judgments in terms of their situations and where I know them as learners. A common misbelief is that assessment is completed only towards the end of a unit, but assessment is happening constantly every day through formative assessment and feedback all the time. But it's a constant process, and I'm really glad to be on that road to learning how to do this in my own classroom one day. Believing that assessment should be equitable will inform my practice through the way I differentiate assessment to help different students' needs. I have created a diagram to help me articulate my knowledge of teaching, learning and assessment all working together as one. So, without teaching, learning cannot happen for students. Without assessment, students cannot learn to grow to that assessment. And without assessment, teachers cannot teach to help students rise to that next level of learning. Through incorporating teaching, learning and assessment, it is not just a constant circle that goes around like this, even though they all do interrelate and affect each other. When these three work together, there is progress. And it goes on, And that's how students learn and move on to new things. Through completing this assignment, the nature of my professional learning has changed completely, looking at different things that I had not got exposed to before. Specifically, the different education systems. I found the Montessori method of teaching extremely interesting. The fact that students could choose their own tasks and are able to physically explain themselves using materials is something that all mainstream schools should implement, and that I will definitely take with me into the classroom. So this is a quote from the Inner City Montessori website. Observing the whole child means that the director is observing not only what the child is learning or demonstrating intellectually, but also how they are operating socially and emotionally as they engage in the task. I believe this is extremely important in formatively observing a student when they're doing their work. How are they feeling emotionally and socially? How are they engaging with other students while they complete these tasks? When exploring the different views on high-stakes testing, I was very surprised to see the different ways these were portrayed in different platforms. For example, in social media, often the feedback and the response to NAPLAN and PISA was quite negative and looking at the impacts it has on students. And I believe this is because the community does worry for students and they want them to get the best out of their schools. So my professional stance on assessment will greatly inform my teaching and student learning as a student myself greatly in the future. So taking this new knowledge on that I have learned will be a great way of implementing new assessment strategies and looking at different ways that students can be assessed to help them the best I can. After doing the case study of my assessment school, I'll be able to take into consideration the deep knowledge that I have on the school assessment culture to enhance my practice by using these elements that I've learnt about the school into my assessment planning when I am teaching. I'm truly excited for my future in teaching. This assignment has greatly expanded my knowledge and really I feel more prepared in tackling assessment now than I ever did before. Thank you.